Prive, the luxury supercar engine Concours de Vent that Andrew and I launched here 3 years ago. As you can see around you, we've got a wonderful lawn of the usual characterful automotive greats that we have here every year. We've got supercars, sports cars, classic cars, mega cars, hypercars, and even microcars. There's something on the lawn here for everybody this year. Some great classic cars, all of which are for sale, presented by some of the UK's most renowned and reputable dealers and retailers. We've got our usual eclectic mix of luxury brands, from art, motorcycles, antiques, helicopters. Where else in London would you see boats, helicopters, and this collection of cars on the lawn in central London? It's great to be here at Royal Hospital Chelsea, iconic landmark and home of the Chelsea pensioners. Thank you to the hospital for hosting us here. Thank you to our sponsors, Pomeray and Boodles, who've been with us now for 16 or 17 years, so long-standing partners of ours. We're doing something a bit different this year. We're starting each day with a special celebration parade. This year is 50 years of the Porsche Turbo, the iconic 70s supercar that was launched in 1974. We've got a collection here of 50 cars. Thank you to all of the owners for joining us today and for sharing your cars with us. Lined up at the front here on the left, you see the 911, the earliest 930 Turbo, which back then had a 3-litre engine, 260 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. The blue one to the left of it, or the right of it, depending on which way you're standing, has 3-litre V6 twin turbo. That has 650 brake horsepower and 0 to 60 somewhere between 2.1 to 2.5 seconds, depending on how hard you put your right foot down. The white car behind it is one of only 11. It's a 964. It's got a Lichtbau, the lightweight. Left and right you have flat noses, factory options, very expensive factory options back in the day. Then throughout the procession you have everything from the 993, the last of the air-cooled, the 996 water-cooled, going through the 997, the 991, the 12, the 992, and every variant, hard top and soft top in between. So I'm going to ask you guys to parade through. Gold first, blue second, followed by white in the middle line. The guys are going to park up on the lawn, so they'll be here all day for you to go over and have a look. Following that, then we'll bring the automotive brands through and we'll start the brand parade. So thank you guys, please parade through. As they go through, I'm going to introduce you to Andy Prill. Andy's forgotten more about Porsches than most people will ever know. Andy, what do you make of this parade?
I think it's fantastic. It's really great to be celebrating 50 years. It seems to have gone by in a flash. It's not often that a car defines its generation. You think about the first iteration of the 911 Turbo. It was everybody's poster car. We all had that red turbo on our wall. Very few cars have ever achieved that.
What do you make of this flat nose?
I love it. They were inspired by the 935s, which were the pinnacle of their racing division at the time, and very popular with a few people who wanted to emulate the racing cars.
They were a very costly factory to build, weren't they?
Yeah, an amazing evolution between 77 and 82. Those cars were developed beyond all recognition.
What about this one, the white one with Martini stripes?
Yeah, I love it. To celebrate their association with Martini, they brought these limited editions out with the Martini stripes and special interiors. Great to see the car here.
And look at this one, what do you make of that?
Wow, that's a special. Very interesting. Again, built to emulate the cars that were having so much success on track, the GT2. Fantastic looking thing, and what colour.
There have been so many variants of this, haven't there? I mean, you've got coupe, cabriolet, targa, flat nose, wide body.
Incredible, yeah. When you think it all started, and a 260 horsepower, 4-speed turbo in 1974, and if you bought one, in Britain at least, you had to spend a day with either Nick Ford or tonally drawn to have a driving tuition because they were so worried that people might kill themselves.
It's great in that the spoilers, the turbo back in the 70s, that first turbo, had these massive arches, bulbous arches, and that whale tail picnic table, they used to call it picnic tables for it.
Yeah, again, it all came from racing. 1974, the 2.1 RSR turbo with its massive wing and big tyres, and it was all about presenting what they sold, what they raced to what they sold on little weekdays.
It's great. In those days, I think, when it came to sort of aerodynamics, etc., that kind of went out the window. You had more power in the car, so it needed fatter tyres. So fatter tyres, it just pushed the bodywork out.
Exactly, yeah. Aerodynamics were very much in their infancy. People confuse the spoilers as wings. They're not wings, they're spoilers with an entirely different kettle of fish.
So the spoilers in the early 70s models, I mean, they were designed to keep the weight on the back, weren't they?
Well, they were designed to split the airflow to stop lift, which is different to generating downforce.
Okay.
Where some of these later cars, you see these later iterations, that's a sort of a mix of the spoiler and actually a downforce generating wing.
It's great to see all the colours of Porsche as well, isn't it? They're really vibrant colours. I think you feel yellows, oranges, lime greens, you name it.
It's amazing how they're all coming back as well.
They're not quiet cars, are they?
Interestingly, with the turbos, they're not as noisy as their normal aspirated counterparts. We race the 993 GT2, and it's amazing. Even at full chat, it's about half the volume of a normal aspirated RSR.
They are very, very good. So what have we got here? We've got 930s, 996.
That's a great colour, the dark green, quite rare.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing seeing this many together, isn't it?
I think it's fantastic. Brilliant effort. And thank you to all the owners for turning up and participating.
I'm just wondering where the line stops, but it carries on and on.
Well, 50 years is worth celebrating.
Well, it is. If you look at the Porsche stand this year, their back wall celebrates 50 years. They've got a new 992 Turbo S on the stand there, 640 brake horsepower. They've got the Taycan Turbo next to it, the electric EV, 670 horsepower. Electric Porsche.
Well, no comment. I'm a petrol head, I'm afraid. So you think they were produced in 74, but they weren't the first German manufacturer to make a turbo. That goes to the BMW 2002, which was a complete flop. And typically Porsche pick up the theme and perfected it after so much success with the 917 in America.
This is, looking at this is quite an incredible display, isn't it? I didn't realise, I think we have exactly, well, we have 51, 52 Porsche today. It's quite an incredible collection of cars.
It is incredible. It's great to see in the sunshine. You obviously pay to the same gods as the Duke of Richmond.
Yeah, well, funny enough, this morning when I was working out how to welcome people this morning, I was sort of been thinking, I was going to say very warm welcome to anyone, and I wasn't quite sure how far I should stretch with a warm welcome, but we have been blessed with sunshine today, I'm pleased to say.
It's an often underrated car, the 996. I still think it looks fantastic.
And they keep coming. And we've got the pensioners out here as well, guiding them through.
They're going round and round. There seem to be so many. So while we savour these cars as they come through and park up, we slow down a bit, so I shall try and fill in. It's funny that I was looking last night, the first production turbo was an American car called an Oldsmobile Jetfire in 1962, and it was awful. Amazing to think in a relatively short period of time we got to the 911 turbo, which literally became the car to define this generation, with performance that, although humble by modern standards, at the time was quite revolutionary. And then there was the fabled turbo lag, which I think was often over-exaggerated. And still they come. I must admit, I'm not as au fait with the later models. This is a great livery with the turbo written in the script on the back wings, which was an optional extra at the time. Surprisingly quite rare given how nice it looks. Interesting as well that the very first cars introduced they thought about all the performance, but they didn't really think about the brakes. And the first models in 74 and 75 and into 76 had the 2.7 RS brakes, which were rather not up to the job. And it didn't take them long before they fixed that one, because the car was dramatically under-braked in those early days.
What are the collective brake horsepower on this?
A lot. I'm not that good at mental arithmetic, but many times it is. Yes, this is a 993 coming through, the last of the air-cooled turbo cars. Sorry? Yes, Polar Silver. Okay. So this is Polar Silver, which has got a bit of blue in it, and this is Arctic Silver, which has got a bit of grey in it. There's a bit of trivia for you.
So air-cooled and water-cooled. Water-cooled came in because of emissions, because of heating, didn't it? So they wanted more power, so they needed to bring the heat down. Air couldn't do it fast enough.
Yeah, it was a mixture of increased power output and meeting Euro regulations, which were becoming more and more stringent. The weird thing is, with a noise test, it's measuring vibration, which is what your ears measure. So a noise test would always make an air-cooled car look on the meter more noisy than it actually is, and they just couldn't get through the testing. I know that if you think about 993, how much development went into the 993 with its kinematic suspension. It was a complete departure from the original 911, and it was only in production for a very brief time, for 6 years. I doubt they got their investment back, but it did lay the ground for what we see today in the later ones.
I'm going to say, it has been, it's a benchmark sports car, isn't it?
I say it defined a generation. The car came along, it came out of the blue. Porsche had been developing it in the background, launched it in Paris to a massive fanfare, some surprise in the auto industry. I think some manufacturers thought they were crazy, particularly a Porsche. It soon became a favourite with their customers. This was a car that, you know, if you went to Le Mans, you could see them, and on Monday you could go to the showroom and be in something very similar. Yep, so 964's coming through now.
This was the car in Bad Boys, wasn't it? The Bad Boys Porsche.
Exactly, and the very last car that had a direct link to the first 911s in 1965. If you think of that in terms of time scale, that's a colossal amount of technical development in a relatively short time.
Yeah. So the engines went from 3 litre to 3.3 to 3.6.
Yeah.
And then up, and then eventually ultimately back down to 3 litre.
Yeah, some of the racing versions, GT2 Evos were twin plug and 3.8. But most of the road cars at that period stopped at 3.6, and I think we've been up and gone forward and coming down again in terms with emissions, and we're going to get more power now. It's more like displacement. So most of the turbos now have 3 litres, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so many of the cars on the lawn have, 3 litre twin turbo V6s in various stages of tune, I mean, anything from sort of 4 to 600, 700 horsepower. So.
Yeah, we've learned a lot about turbocharging, and modern electronics mean that you can push these engines to the very limit without danger of affecting reliability, and it is amazing.
Well, you don't get the lag anymore, do you? That sort of putting your foot down and waiting for something to happen, and then all of a sudden.
Twin turbo's gone a long way to doing that. There's anti-lag systems, and it's now a much more civilised beast, but still I think you jump in one of these cars and that low to mid-range is absolutely addictive. That shove forward is like God, hold the bowling ball. It's a great feeling. I think that's what people get addicted to. Not that I'm encouraging anyone to break the speed limit, of course. So, this black car, I'm not sure what year this one, what year is this started? Oh, 1980, so a 3.3 4-speed. In the mid-80s they changed the gearbox up to the G50 spec, and in 1989, for a very short period, the turbo got a 5-speed gearbox. They make the turbo in all body styles. I thought the one example we haven't got here today would be a Targa turbo. Certainly an original. I haven't seen a modern one either, so interesting. But Targas always seem to have been the lowest seller for some reason, which I don't get because they're quite, I think they're quite a taste, but they're still special. I think we're getting towards the end of the line now. Again, a good mix of cars with the cabriolet. Another 930, a 996.
I'll tell you about the one at the end in a minute.
Okay.
That is quite some parade of cars, the Porsche 911 turbos. What a way to celebrate 50 years of this superstar.
I wonder if they'll make another 50. I doubt it somehow, but we'll see.
I'd like to be around and see.
That's ambitious.
Exactly. You've got a dream gate, haven't you?
Yes, indeed. Be optimistic. This is interesting. I don't recognise.
So the last car as it comes through, it's not part of the parade as such, but it is a turbo. It is a 992 S turbo. It is a Brabus 820R. So basically, for those of you that don't know, Brabus is a German brand. Started life many years ago as a German tuning brand. Bodo Buschmann, the guy that owned the company, he was a racer, and in order to compete successfully, he tuned his own cars. Started doing it with Mercedes, did it so successfully that ultimately he was issued with manufacturer status by the German authorities. Fast forward to today, it's run by his son, Konstantin Buschmann. The guys are basically manufacturers. They take Porsches, they take Mercedes, they take Range Rovers, and they build them from the ground up. They strip them out, they tune the engines, they produce bodyworks in full carbon. This is the 820R. 820 signifying 820 brake horsepower. What do you make of that?
Beast of a car, isn't it? There's something we haven't really mentioned, that the turbo inspired a lot of tuners to pick up on what Porsche had started and to develop them even further. But lots of them coming along still. Gunter Works in America, Brabus, Manti, they're all at it. Singer as well.
I think Brabus has been around for a long time now. They are, out of all of them, I mean, you know, Singer and the other guys, they create these amazing resto mod cars. These guys are manufacturers, so they're taking these cars from the factory and then essentially stripping them and completely rebuilding them. So you have this. This is the first one that's been seen in the UK now. Top Cars of Sheffield, who are the UK official brand partners of Brabus. They're not only retailers, but they have a workshop there as well. So you can actually go up there and spec your car with Tony and his team in Sheffield, rather than having to go all the way over to Germany and do with the team there. How about that?
It looks fantastic, doesn't it? I've just seen the back and it's very impressive.
It's great, isn't it? Because there's nothing too wild about it. It's just got enough of all the right parts.
And 820 horses.
And 820 brake horsepower. So it'll hit 60 in very, very low twos, go on to well over 200 miles an hour. All the driver aids you need, all-wheel drive. Beautiful, isn't it?
Probably we could use in a car. Fantastic.
Hypercar performance in a supercar body.
That's the great thing about it. Porsches have always been that, they've got that unique shape which you instantly recognise, and especially a turbo with the wide arches and all the little things that signify its state.
It's a good point, isn't it, which we did mention. If you look at the early cars to the very latest now, through 50 years, they've maintained this very visible silhouette, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. It's instantly recognisable. You know it's not a Ferrari, you know it's not any number of other manufacturers, it's just iconically Porsche.